Hey there, and welcome to yet another one of my cheesy YouTube videos. On this video, we're going to discuss getting out stubborn lug nuts and what I had to do to finally get this wheel off. The reason why I'm doing this video is while I was in the process of trying to get this thing apart, I went on YouTube and I saw a few videos that other people have done, and I disagree with what they're saying. And the funny thing is, I saw one and I watched, and he said, oh, make sure you use a 12-point socket. Well, that's not what I do. I'm just the opposite. And then the next video that I clicked on, he said the same thing. So let's discuss it and see what we can come up with. First thing was, this Jeep has aluminum rims on it, and this thing has sat for I don't know how long. So in the process of sitting so long, this Jeep's tires were rotten. I went to take off the driver's side tire first, and none of my lug nuts would move. And I hammered with a 1/2-inch electric impact, and I was using sockets that were available. All these years, I hardly ever use impact sockets. Not saying I'm right, just saying back in the day when I was turning wrenches for a living, I used mainly Craftsman tools, so if I broke a socket, I'd just go to Sears and get another one. Jeep had these Acorn lug nuts that were 3/4 inch. I used a 3/4 inch 12-point. And what it wound up doing, this is actually a little piece of tin pressed over a metal lug nut, and it stripped this piece of tin out. It actually took it off the lug nut. So that means that the hex on the underneath here is no longer 3/4, it's actually a little bit smaller. I've been told 18 millimeter. That's what I learned reading after the fact. To get the rest of the lug nuts off, I did look at YouTube for that. And you need to remember that the last time I worked in a tire shop was at a Kmart in 1980. And everything was steel wheels. If you had aluminum wheels, you're either rich or a drug dealer. So I hardly ever ran across aluminum wheels. But yeah, I know that the aluminum wheels are on just about everything, and on my personal cars. About the only problem I ever had, the wheel it'll ride on this hub here, and it'll corrode to the hub. I never had it to where the actual lug nuts, and I thought this thing was over torqued. That's what I thought had happened. But that's not what happened. What happened is, sitting so long and not being taken off, there's a dissimilar metal corrosion between the steel lug nuts and the aluminum rim. And what that is, it's called nobility. So what happens is, the two dissimilar metals, the aluminum and the steel, one will be more noble than the other, and it will attack the other. And that's what corrosion is. And that's why you got zincs on boats, because zinc is a less noble metal than the metal on your boat. So the more noble metal will attack the zinc instead of attacking other less noble metals on the boat. So there's a pecking order. And you can get a sheet that will tell you the list of nobility as it goes down. And anyways, so what happens is there was a fight between the steel and the aluminum, and that creates corrosion, and it locked the lug nuts to the rim. And I read the cure for that. Well, all you had to do was take PB Blaster or penetrating oil and spray them and let them sit. And I sprayed them and let them sit for a couple of days, because I'm in the process of stabbing the engine, and that's why there's so much crap on the floor too. So, but wasn't going to clean the floor up just to give a nice pretty video for you. So when I went to take the lug nuts off, all the lug nuts on this Jeep came off like normal after doing that. So spraying them and letting them sit was a cure for that. All of them came off except for that one. I stripped the little metal piece off, and by that point I had already pretty much destroyed the whole damn lug nut. What I should have done is I should have put a 6-point socket on it from the get-go. And that's a lesson learned. I mean, I've gotten away from using 12-point sockets, but I should have used a 6-point from the get-go. And that is why I'm making this video. because on the videos I found on the internet, both them boys were saying don't forget to use a 12 point. You got to use a 12 point. Nah, that's bullshit, because a 12 point socket, a hex nut, lug nut, regular hex nuts, they're 6 points. So a 12 point, only good a 12 point gives anybody is when you're in a tight quarter, it gives you don't have to go 1/6 of a turn on a wrench to put it back on again. You can go 1/12 of a turn. So that helps and hard to get to bolts, and that helps in getting hard to get to bolts and stuff. And a socket only is going to catch it. 12 points just going to catch it on the edge here. So if you strip it out, you're kind of screwed. So think of it this way: there isn't an impact socket out there that isn't 6 point. And that is because a 6 point socket is going to grab more of the bolt than a 12 point will. But anyways, here I am. I am stuck with a stripped out lug nut that's recessed into an aluminum rim that I can't get to. First thing I tried is I tried every socket I could find. I tried driving an 18 millimeter, which is smaller than the 3/4, onto it, but it just stripped out. The next thing I did is I welded multiple times. I welded nuts to the stripped out lug nut. I welded another nut to it, and for some reason they kept breaking, and I'm not sure what I did wrong there, because they broke kind of easily. Then I decided, okay, I'm going to have to burn that lug nut off. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit nervous about it. I didn't want to destroy the aluminum rim. But the fact is, aluminum does not like to burn with a cutting torch. It dissipates the heat so quick that it's really hard to burn it. So it worked out real good that I was able to burn the lug nut out and the stud without damaging the rim. So the moral of this story is, use a lot of penetrating oil if you have stubborn lug nuts on a vehicle that's been sitting for any amount of time, when you're dealing with steel lug nuts and aluminum rims. And since there's no such thing as aluminum lug nuts, just assume if you're in this situation that you've got corrosion, and use penetrating oil. Also, the next thing is use 6 point socket, no matter what people say, 6 point. And the reason being is you'll never find a 12 point impact socket. There's a reason to that. Anyways, I hope you like this video. I really thought it was important just to make it, just because of the misinformation on YouTube. And I hope you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And remember, if you love life and learning new things, go aimless.com.